this time. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Simon.
And I just want to start this podcast by thanking each one of you. We have received so many messages, so much contact, hearing about the ways that you guys are continuing to connect and engage this time. Thanking myself, Paul, and others for the different things that we've been doing. And I'm just really encouraged by that. So I want to start this podcast by saying thank you. Paul, we're another week into this crazy COVID season, as I think you put it the other day.
Siege,
there we go. How are you feeling in the middle of this siege?
I think it's starting to feel like a little bit of a new normal. It doesn't feel quite as frantic as it has in the last couple of weeks. Things are still changing and still needing to make all these adjustments, but sort of feeling a little bit of a settled new norm. This is almost the way it is. This is going to be the way it is for the next 4 to 6 months. But yeah, it still feels weird, and it still feels a little bit all over the place, but maybe with a little bit of settlement coming in as well. What about you? You've been chasing the gauntlet for the last couple of weeks, especially in the technological side of things and getting us set up. How are you feeling?
I think I'm a bit similar. Like I'm starting to see what a new norm might be for this next season. Getting on top of that, just I guess mental space, and coming out the other side of a few technological challenges. A lot of time spent trying to wrangle computers into doing what they're meant to do, and today's probably a good time to ask me, because we've just had Sam and Jack and Marion do some recording for our upcoming Easter services on the music side of things, and that went really well, and I'm looking forward to having that all go through the live stream on Sunday. So I'm feeling kind of encouraged by that. Like, okay, yeah, we can see where this next season's going a little bit better maybe before, yeah, we know more curveballs will come, but that's where I'm at the moment.
Cool.
Paul and I were talking about a week or so back, and I sort of threw the question out there about thinking about online resources. And so we were discussing it, I don't know if you remember, I sort of said, let's have a talk about what's the difference between online resources and your local church online. Is there a difference? I mean, one of the things we've always said about the local church is you need to be connected into a local church. Don't be this Christian that just goes with the podcast alone, goes with, I'll just grab whatever teaching and I'll sort of do it on my own. And a big part of that reasoning and logic that we're sort of defaulted to is because of the physical side of stuff, of coming and physically gathering, singing together, church to contribute and serve in, all those kinds of things that were quite closely tied to physical. We're in a season now where that physical's not there. So I guess really the question that I want us to bounce around a bit is, on a Sunday morning or Wednesday night live stream or whenever it might be, why should our church family plug into a BBC's stuff online rather than just go, it's Sunday morning, it's 9:30, families together, let's hit play on John Piper this week. Why still us? Do you want to give us some thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good question, and when you asked it to me last week or so, I've given it quite a bit of thought. Just one comment before I answer it directly. I think we have got to acknowledge, firstly, this sort of online community versus face-to-face. It is different. We are still church at an online capacity, but it's not the same as being face-to-face.
Yeah.
And just acknowledging how we've enjoyed even people popping into the church occasionally for something to do music, how we've enjoyed that interaction and
it's sort of like a breath of fresh air, isn't
Correct,
it?
yeah.
And not everyone's getting that opportunity. We get that blessing that others in church are not.
And so I'm missing certainly missing that face-to-face contact and being with us as a community. And I think that's the key. So going to your question of why click BBC on a Sunday morning and not John Piper or John MacArthur or somewhere else, our community is our community. I think I use this expression in South Africa. We had this expression, local is lekker, which means local is better, local is good. And why BBC live stream? Why BBC Wednesday Night Live? Because this is our people. God has placed us into this community, into this space. We're a local, gathered people that are sharing our lives, and so the whole context is Bustleton Baptist Church, and it's our people, and even though it's sort of online community in many ways, we're still loving, we're still serving, we're still seeking to connect with one another. And from a teaching perspective, for example, I'm teaching into a Bustleton Baptist community. It's where our people are at, and it's dealing with the things that our people are dealing with. And in many ways, our community, the struggles are unique. And so you speak into that space, and we're encouraging and loving and serving people in that particular place. And so a live stream and connecting and tuning in is unique and special, rather than just going to a community that you don't know, a pastor you don't know, a team that you don't know. And I think it's also been reflected in the comments that people are making, and saying it's still so good to be connected, even though it's online, and people are still seeing our faces, and local is lekker, local is better. And I just want to keep encouraging all of us to keep pushing into that space, because we're together and God has placed us in this place, in this space together.
And there's certainly a lot about how you and I are thinking about being on the other side of the camera for a lot of it. Like we're not producing internet content aiming at sort of this disembodied YouTube audience or something. We're talking to you, BBC, and we're glad and happy for other Christians, friends, family that might tune in along the way, and there's opportunity to serve and encourage in that space. But that's not our main heart. We're talking to you, BBC, and that certainly changes the way we approach it. Sort of as we're talking about as we preach and teach and share, where are we at in this community? Where's our people at?
It's personal. It's deeply personal, because our lives are connected here, and so even using the media that we've got, we're looking for that personal touch wherever we can find it, and I think that's where our encouragement is actually gonna come from, because it is actually us together going through this, and not just in a broad Australian sense. We are Christians together, we've got people together, united by the Spirit in a particular locum space, going through it together. And that's very different from just saying we're all Australians and we'll get through the COVID siege. It's different. It's supernaturally different, I think.
Yeah, that's good. We probably better start to wrap this up. We're coming up on our time. I wanted to finish this podcast with a poem that I came across on Facebook. I'll put on the comments where it's from. I've completely forgotten who to credit for this, so I'll put that in the comments. But let me finish our time with this. I thought it was a beautiful take on this season we're in. The title is The COVID Winter. It started slowly, like the first leaves in autumn. First one, then two, then three at once, and then a flurry. Suddenly all the plans I had were gone. The calendar stood bare, like a winter tree. The people I loved isolated. The routine I knew, decimated. The pattern of my life changed, almost unrecognizable. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, but I want my plans. I want what I thought I would have. The meetings, the people, and the places. Spring is in the air, but it feels like winter. An eerie, quiet winter. A frightening, Narnian winter. With no Christmas to brighten the days, but a stopping, waiting, worrying, questioning winter. When will this end? Will the world be the same after? Who will I be when it's over? Then I remember that despite appearances, winter is not just waiting. It is recharging, strengthening, preparing for new life and abundant growth, for the beauty of flowers and the miracle of birth. And I remember that in the darkness of Good Friday, the disciples despaired, believing that the world as they knew it was over, and it was. But what came next was joy, transformation, a new life, a new mission. The old and familiar was gone, the new was infinitely better. This winter feels hard, but I will give it to God, trusting in His promise of hope and renewal, looking to Easter whenever it comes, believing that in God's time, not my time, life will be renewed. I just thought that was a beautiful perspective on this season that is a season morphed with dangerously overshadowing Easter. And I know as a church we've been trying to sort of claw back a bit of Easter focus this week, and I thought that was a beautiful perspective to lift our eyes to the God who still renews, who is still full of hope, who brought that first Easter that changed everything as we knew it. And I hope that encourages you. Thank you for tuning in again for another podcast, and we will see you next time.